You know, every once in a while something starts as just another rumor. And then, suddenly, it feels like there's actually something real behind it. That's exactly where things seem to be right now. At the same time, one player has been making so much noise at training camp that people just can't stop talking about him. So let's break down everything that's happening, what it could mean moving forward, and why these developments are getting Seahawks fans so excited. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to hit that like button because it really helps the channel grow. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Drop a Go Hawks if you're excited about everything happening right now, and let me know your thoughts on today's biggest story. The latest developments coming out of Seahawks training camp are creating a lot of discussion. And there are really two major storylines that deserve everyone's attention right now. The first centers on the possibility of a reunion with Jadeveon Clowney, while the second is what appears to be another dominant stretch from Byron Murphy during practice. Both topics are gaining momentum at the same time, and together they paint an interesting picture of where this team could be heading as preparations continue. The Clowney situation has become much more interesting because this is no longer being described as simple speculation. Reports referenced in the source material indicate that after Clowney worked out with the Browns, there was growing belief that the Seahawks were among the teams interested in him. Just as importantly, the report also suggested that Clowney himself has interest in joining Seattle. That changes the conversation significantly because mutual interest is always a stronger foundation than one-sided rumors. According to the information discussed, this appears to be a situation where there may be genuine momentum rather than just casual off-season chatter. The biggest reason this fit continues to make sense revolves around Mike Macdonald's defensive philosophy. Rather than looking for an edge defender who specializes only in rushing the passer or only in defending the run, the emphasis is on finding someone capable of handling both responsibilities at a consistently high level. The discussion in the source argues that Clowney matches that profile extremely well because he can stand his ground against the run while still generating pressure on passing downs. That balanced skill set is presented as exactly the type of player Seattle's coaching staff values. Another important point is that this evaluation is not based solely on Clowney's reputation from years ago. The discussion specifically looks at his production over the last several seasons, emphasizing that despite being a veteran, he has continued producing meaningful numbers. The argument made is that he remains capable of generating sacks, tackles for loss, and disruptive plays, suggesting there is still plenty left in his game. Instead of viewing him as someone whose best football is far behind him, the conversation presents him as a player who continues to perform at a productive level. Of course, adding another experienced edge rusher naturally raises questions about the current depth chart. Seattle already has several players expected to receive significant snaps, making the room appear fairly crowded. Rather than comparing Clowney directly with the established starters, the discussion focuses more on how he would fit into the overall rotation. The point being made is not that current contributors have failed, but that Clowney could potentially strengthen the unit even further by giving the defense another reliable option throughout the season. One of the concerns addressed involves Derek Hall. There is an understandable argument that bringing in another veteran could reduce Hall's opportunities to continue developing. However, the discussion pushes back against that concern by pointing out that Hall has been progressing well during training camp, while also suggesting that adding another quality player does not automatically prevent younger talent from improving. Instead, the idea presented is that a deeper rotation could benefit everyone over the course of a long season. Another reason this possibility stands out is Clowney's previous experience with Mike Macdonald. The discussion highlights that he has already played under Macdonald before and enjoyed one of the stronger stretches of his career in that defensive system. Familiarity matters because there would likely be less adjustment required compared to a player learning everything from scratch. That previous relationship is described as another factor that makes this potential move more believable than many other free agent rumors that surface during training camp. There is also an emotional component to the conversation. Clowney already knows what playing in Seattle feels like. The source recalls his previous time with the organization, emphasizing how disruptive he could be whenever he was healthy enough to stay on the field. While injuries limited portions of that season, the discussion argues that his impact often extended beyond traditional statistics because offenses consistently had to account for him. That previous experience with Seattle's environment is mentioned as another reason why a reunion could make sense for both sides. Financial considerations naturally become part of the debate as well. According to the discussion, Seattle has available salary cap space, but every dollar committed now affects future flexibility. The estimated contract range mentioned for Clowney falls around $6 to $8 million, making the decision more complicated than simply asking whether he is a good player. The organization would have to decide whether that investment represents the best use of available resources, especially with other potential roster decisions still ahead. While the Clowney discussion remains based on interest and possibility, the Byron Murphy conversation is built around something much more immediate: what has been happening on the practice field. Murphy has become one of the most talked-about players in camp, and, according to the information presented, that attention is well-deserved. Reports from practice describe him as dominating during the first padded sessions, creating problems for the offensive line on a consistent basis. This is especially significant because padded practices provide a much more realistic measure of line play than lighter workouts earlier in camp. The excitement surrounding Murphy becomes even more impressive when considering what he accomplished previously. Rather than showing signs of complacency after a strong season, the discussion suggests exactly the opposite is happening. The concern some people may have had, that a breakout year could lead to reduced urgency, has not matched what observers are seeing on the field. Instead, Murphy is reportedly continuing to elevate his performance with each practice session. Comments referenced from practice describe Murphy as potentially being unblockable, which is an extraordinary compliment for an interior defensive lineman. Even more notable is that these observations are not limited to a single outstanding practice. The discussion repeatedly emphasizes that similar reports have emerged across multiple sessions, creating the impression that this is becoming a consistent trend rather than an isolated performance. That level of consistency is what makes these reports particularly difficult to ignore. Mike Macdonald's own comments further added to the growing excitement. According to the discussion, he indicated that he could envision another spike in Murphy's productivity. That is a remarkable statement considering the level Murphy had already reached. When a head coach believes a player who already performed at a high level could become even more productive, expectations naturally begin to rise. The possibility of another leap becomes one of the biggest stories emerging from camp, and it is clear why so many people are paying close attention. With reports of mutual interest between Seattle and Jadeveon Clowney continuing to circulate, while Byron Murphy keeps putting together dominant practice performances, which development do you believe could have the bigger impact on the Seahawks if everything continues in this direction? Beyond the headlines surrounding Clowney, the most encouraging takeaway from camp may actually be the consistency Byron Murphy has shown every single day. According to the reports discussed, this wasn't a one-practice flash or a lucky stretch against a backup offensive lineman. The praise has continued through multiple training camp sessions, and once the pads came on, Murphy reportedly became even more disruptive. That is exactly what coaches want to see because padded practices provide the closest thing to real football before the preseason begins. The excitement around Murphy is also fueled by the belief that he may not have reached his ceiling yet. After putting together an outstanding season, many players naturally face questions about whether they can repeat that production. Instead, everything coming out of camp suggests Murphy is pushing to elevate his game even further. Mike Macdonald's comments about the possibility of another jump in production only reinforce the idea that the coaching staff believes the best is still ahead. If that prediction becomes reality once the regular season starts, Seattle could have one of the most dangerous interior defensive linemen in football. There were also a couple of additional updates from practice worth noting. Devin Easter returned after passing his physical, another positive development, as the roster continues taking shape during training camp. The source also highlighted the retirement of Jonathan Hankins after a 12-year NFL career, recognizing his time with multiple organizations, including Seattle, and congratulating him on everything he accomplished throughout his career. It served as a reminder of the respect he earned around the league and the impact he left on the people who worked alongside him. As camp moves forward, these are clearly two of the biggest storylines to watch. Will the mutual interest between Seattle and Jadeveon Clowney eventually lead to a contract, or will it remain just another off-season rumor? And can Byron Murphy continue carrying this dominant form from the practice field into the regular season? Those answers could have a major impact on the months ahead. If you enjoyed this update, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss the latest Seahawks news, rumors, training camp reports, and exclusive analysis. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, share your thoughts in the comments, because I want to know where you stand on these developments, and don't forget to click the video that's on your screen right now. That's where you'll find even more Seahawks coverage, and if you want the latest updates first, this is the place to be.